Excellent. I would appreciate that. Okay, well, welcome to the first in-service meeting we've had since April or since May. It just has been forever. So glad to have all of you. And several of you have started since then. So you're like, first in-service ever. Anyway, we're glad to have you here. Um, we have Josh from Active Home Care and Hospice, and he's going to talk to us about some of the expectations we can have, like if we have a hospice client, what we should expect, maybe what we should know, and specifically what they're supposed to tell the clients so that the clients are aware of what's coming so that we kind of have an idea. We had an incident a few months ago where the lady that was on hospice, the family had no clue. And thankfully, our caregivers had dealt with hospice before and were able to kind of walk them through the steps of, okay, this is going to happen. And, and then we know she's getting close to pass because, so we want to make sure that we all kind of have an idea of what's supposed to go on. And so I will go ahead and turn it over to Josh. His computer's not working, so he's just going to wing it with his papers that he's got. And then he will email me his presentation and I'll email it out to everybody. Okay, so thank you.
It's okay. We've done this a time or two. We get good at winging it over the course of time. Well, good afternoon, ladies and everybody else that's watching. Gentlemen, perfect. So yes, we did get an email, and unfortunately, that instance that happens more often than you guys think. Where yes, as a home health, hospice, and personal care company like Active, we should be the educators helping people realize what hospice is, setting the right expectations, and making sure everybody's on the right page. But it's not a perfect world. Sometimes it does not happen. So Diane asked me to go over a few things and help you guys understand when you guys can actually see if somebody does have hospice potential, how you guys can help navigate that and be the heroes for your guys' patients that you guys are seeing right now. So the first question I have for you guys as a group, will somebody tell me what they understand hospice care to be?
End of life care.
Okay.
And I've noticed that each hospice company has a very different approach. Some like to escalate things a little, and some, really want to make the patient very comfortable, give them water. Some hospices don't want you to give them any food or water. It's different each hospice.
You're true. Very different depending on company, staff, education, everything. So no, you are exactly right. Hospice is end-of-life care. Now, too often, it's addressed as the last 1 to 2 weeks of somebody's life. And ideally, that's what it's for. But we actually like to get in front of that with a lot of our patients because we've ran studies and there's been statistics that people that get on hospice sooner have a higher quality of life and they normally live longer than those that wait for the last 1 to 2 weeks of their life because the disease is so far in the process that it's hard for a hospice company to catch up. So what we do at Active, and I'll have you guys start passing those around. At Active, we focus on 3 things when it comes to our hospice patients: comfort, quality, and control. When we talk about comfort, hospice is comfort cares or end-of-life cares. So what we're trying to do is help educate the person, their family, and their whole circle of influence because it's not an easy topic to bring up to families because they know it as end-of-life cares or the last 1 to 2 weeks of somebody's life. So what I do is, as the marketer for Active, as well as my clinicians, is we go through and we start educating on disease process. We start bringing in more support so it's not such a scary topic like society paints it to be right now. So comfort, quality. Now it might sound weird, but we're going to take John. He's an 84-year-old. He has cancer and he's tried chemo, radiation, all of these things. And then he just decides he doesn't want to do that anymore. So what John is deciding is, a lot of times people don't recognize that when you go to all of these providers, hospitals, things like that, you really don't have control over what type of care you're receiving. You're being directed, but you don't really get a control or have a say in that. So going back to John, he is actually choosing his own care moving forward, because he decides when we come in, we go over all of the medications with him. We help him realize that there is another option besides just trying to always fix the problem and look for a solution, when sometimes there's not, and they just want to have control over their life back. So we've got comfort, control, and then quality. And it's going to sound weird again. When somebody decides to go on hospice over home health or any other service, they're actually going to have a higher quality of life and more support than what they were receiving before. So those are the three things that we go in when we meet with a patient and their family. We go over those three things so they get a good idea of hospice is not a bad thing. It's actually a great service if they're all on board with it, and if it aligns with the goals of care for them. Now, have any of you had a instance or an opportunity to take care of a patient that is on hospice with another company? Oh, who? Sorry, I heard yep, and then I saw one hand come up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have.
Will you share with us?
What do you want me to share about it?
Just from your perspective, was it a good? Do you feel like it was a good experience? Because obviously they're their own team. You guys are your own team, but you're focusing on making sure that that person's taken care of. How would you say that experience was at hospice company?
It was pretty good. Honestly, I didn't have very much interaction with them, so I feel like maybe I'm not the right person to weigh in
That's
on
okay.
this. But yeah, I've never had any problems with it. So yeah.
Okay, it's a great experience. No, that's perfect. That's what I needed. Who else has had an experience? Go ahead.
Well, I've worked at that from the caregiver perspective and from the family perspective when someone's passing, and it makes it a lot easier to have hospice in there when you get to that last point and they don't want to go to the doctor anymore, and then they can come and get the medication that they need when they need it without going, "Can we get that prescription we needed yesterday?" And
we need it now, but yeah.
You're yet, and you've already got everything there.
Okay.
And it made it a lot easier when the person passed, because then if they're on hospice, it facilitated getting everything going on the other end too.
That's perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? Don't be shy. Go ahead.
My dad just passed in January, and he had a stroke 3 years ago. I was Monday through Saturday morning, staying right at the home I grew up in Napleton. And one day, again, I just said to my sister, because we had a team of us, we need hospice. And it was like, I knew, because I've been a caregiver a long time, 14 years, I knew that didn't mean he's going to die tomorrow, but it was a big, hard transition in my mind. That meant we are getting closer. And they came in, and the chaplain, the social worker, the nurse, the CNAs, they were amazing.
Good.
And showed an interest in my dad. And we went out and showed him his 1932 pickup and his 1929 Ford car.
Perfect. Perfect.
So they were emotionally very supportive.
Good.
That helped a lot.
Good.
Have that extra, and this is what's coming. This is what to expect.
Okay,
So
so
you hear it, but when it's in the moment, it's very hard.
So as a group, if I was to ask you guys by raise of hands, who thinks they could have that conversation with somebody that you're taking care of and have them understand it correctly as far as what hospice is? Okay, 1, 2. Each one is different. You're right.
Had that conversation, encouraging the family and the client.
Yep. Not the easiest of conversations. So when I was thinking of how you guys can be the heroes for those patients, is a lot of the times you guys don't need to actually have that conversation with them. You're already in with them. You're already building the relationship. They know you as their caregiver. The family knows you as their caregiver. So the only thing you guys need to do is figure out and identify, hey, maybe it is time that this person needs additional cares, hospice services. So you guys are a great introduction to letting a hospice company come in and start working on what we are good at, which is home health and hospice, and let you guys do what you guys are expert at, or be the hero for your patients. Because a lot of the times that conversation is hard, can be difficult because it's so misunderstood. But what I've given you guys here is a brief overview of what we do, and I have more material that I'll also hand to all of you. So this conversation or catching those cues becomes easier. Because when I sat back in Salt Lake, which is where I normally market, I market down in Utah County as well for active, I really didn't use you guys as a personal care company, as a referral source. And I was very mistaken, and I should have, because you guys see them actually a lot more than we do as a home health company or hospice company. So you guys know when Jane is starting to decline, or when her ADLs are starting to become much more difficult than they were in the past. She's not eating. It's all of these cues and signs that you guys are already seeing, or the family brings up, that helps me see a picture of this person is hospice appropriate. So when it comes to hospice, I'm going to hand out another flyer that we have named Recognizing Decline. Do you mind passing those out? And the goal with this was to make it very easy for any caregiver, any family member, to start putting puzzle pieces together for their loved one. And I'll let this get handed out, and then I want you guys to look at it for a second and see if this would be a tool you guys would use, or if there's any questions regarding this flyer. So I'll give it a second to get around the room, and then we can keep going. Because this is the flyer I use for every hospice conversation that I have with any patient at all, because it just paints a very clear picture of what hospice is. Basically a checkbox of that, on that circle. It's a checkbox of, are they having multiple hospitalizations, multiple infections? Has there been a lot of medication changes? All things that you guys are in there experiencing with them, that actually helps paint a picture of, it's time. It's time to have that conversation. It's time to help them get the proper care that they need. So do you guys, looking through that, how many of you have seen any of the colored, thank you very much, any of the colored circles with anybody you've taken care of? I was going to say, every hand should go up in this room. Is what I'm hoping. Okay, so as you can see, is there many of your patients that just have one of these things, or do they have several? Okay, there are several on there. And how much easier would it have been to help them understand that, hey, I would like you to talk to somebody that can go over all these things, help understand where Jane Doe, your guys' patient, is at, and maybe it's time to have that introduction conversation. Because you guys, and I want to make sure you guys understand, you guys are heroes for these people, because you guys are in there taking care of them, and you're also helping them navigate a very difficult path. Coming back to, and sorry, I did not catch your name.
My name is
Mary. Mary, you brought it up. You saw things, started drumming up that conversation. You caught the cues. You started helping put things into place for that patient so they understood. Hero, right there. And then it's very easy to pass it off to a home health and hospice company to then continue on that conversation, give those type of cares while you guys are still in there building that relationship with them again. So looking through this, what questions do you guys have?
Another question, just
Go
a
ahead.
comment. That's why I feel like our progress notes are so important for me, because there are situations where I would not feel comfortable maybe sitting the family down and doing that, but I would feel comfortable sharing that in my progress notes. And I know that Allison and you guys read those, and then sometimes you'll reach out to me or you'll reach out to the family. So it's just that, it's great to put that it was a good shift or we had a good time, which I've done many times, but also just noticing the things that are happening. Like, she wasn't eating. I've noticed over the past few weeks that she stopped eating, or she keeps repeating herself in a strange way, or whatever, something that the family might not have noticed. So those progress notes are like essential, I think, to our, and they get tiring after a while. They really do. But they are so important. Because again, I don't always feel like I'm in the place to sit the family down, either because I don't have, sometimes, like, you visit and there's no family around. It's you and your clients. So, yeah.
Okay, so Angela, right?
Yep, you got it.
So fill me in on, let's go back to your progress notes. When would you say it is time to have that conversation with the person you're taking care of or that family from your perspective? You're more than welcome to use that sheet, but give me a picture of where you think would be a great introduction to have that conversation with them.
You mean like how I would say it?
Mm-hmm.
I think I would just be honest with them, you know. I would just, you know, say I think I've just been noticing over the past little while. I've been here, you know, especially if I'm a regular caregiver. In some cases, I'm only there once a week, and there are lots of other caregivers. So again, I wouldn't feel, but you know, it's still a perspective. But I would just say I've noticed these things, and I'm just wondering, you know, what do you think about this? Just because I know from my father-in-law just passed away recently in March, and he was on hospice, but he refused. He did not want to have. The nurse came, but he didn't want the chaplain. He didn't want anybody. So his daughters were doing 24/7 duty. He's got 4 daughters, thankfully, but they were doing duty 24/7 to try and care for him. Exhausted, leaving their families, you know, because he refused to have anybody come in. And I kept saying, I mean, our company doesn't go up to Salt Lake, but I'm like, this is what I do. Like it's okay, you know. Nope, didn't want anybody in the home. So that is another thing that sometimes when you introduce something like that, the family might be like, we don't know how to talk to him about it. You know, we don't know or whatever. So because the sisters were kind of like, we've tried and he refuses. Then what do you do?
And what do you do?
Yeah.
That's exactly
so,
right.
Anyway, sorry, not meaning to throw all those wrenches in your.
You're good, and I'm going to come back to that, but go ahead, Diane.
Well, so my father just passed away, and we didn't tell him we got him on hospice because to him, hospice meant you're gone.
Correct.
And we knew that he still had quite a while. You know, he ended up having a couple of months, and we just said, well, we need some help, and we've got somebody who will bring in a hospital bed. We have somebody who will do this and who will do that, and we just didn't use the word hospice. And then he was agreeable. You just couldn't use the word hospice.
It's that mantra that hospice has, where it's had a very bad rapport in society, and we're working on changing it, but we've got our work cut out. It's going to take a bit. But going back to where you were, your introduction, even if you left it at just what you shared with me, fantastic. Because what you guys need to realize is you've already built trust with all of them, so your opinion and what you say matters a lot to them. Now, coming over to my side, you have that trust with them. Once you find a company that does give great care, a hospice or home health company, when you recommend them, it's actually putting your trust in us to then build a relationship with this patient, continue on that circle of trust, so then it's a collective group taking care of them. So going back to yours, if you were to call me and say, Josh, I have this patient, I let them know, hey, we're seeing a lot of decline or some things that maybe it is time to look at hospice as an option. Can you go talk with their family? Would love to, Angela. I'd get a little bit more info from you, and then I would go meet with the family, and I'll go over just kind of a rough explanation of what I would sit in and talk to a family about. And I'll just use my own family because I've had 3 out of 4 of my grandparents on hospice with us because I know active gives great care. I've seen it in my own personal family, and that was probably the hardest conversation I had to have, was removing myself from being the grandson and being the hospice expert and explaining it to my mom, to my dad, to my uncle. So if any of you want an opportunity, I would happily let you present in front of your own family, but it was one of the hardest ones that I've had to do because it was hard to remove myself from family and be the hospice expert for them. So Diane, will you actually so we're going to have Tom. Tom is somebody suffering from a cognitive issue, weight loss, very hospice appropriate, but I need you to be his family, and I'm going to be the hospice company. Okay? So I'm going to come in, basically explain everything that it is. So just as we go through, just give me some cues, some other things, but I do want you guys to listen so you can see how this conversation goes, and it makes identifying and your guys' conversation with them much easier. Okay, so Diane, I got a call from you about your dad here. Tell me what's going on with him.
Well, he can't make it to the bathroom without peeing his pants on the way.
Okay.
Even though he's as close to the bathroom as we can get him. He doesn't know what to do once he gets in the bathroom. He can't remember what he needs to do, which is another reason why he ends up soiling himself. He gets very angry with us over little things. It's hard to reason with him. He thinks he can do a lot of things that he can't, but he doesn't realize he can't do them because in his mind, in his memory, he can do that.
And it's hard to tell him otherwise because in his mind, he is right. So let's continue with him being right. But the reason why I want to come and talk with you, Diane, is with what's going on and what I've spoken to his provider about, I do think hospice is a very good option for him. Now, from your perspective, help me understand what you understand hospice to be.
I expect hospice to come in and help make things easier for me so that I have a better support system, that I have more direction in what I should do and how I should do it so that I'm not shooting myself in the foot. I need somebody with a little more expertise on how to present things and make you the bad guy and not me the bad guy.
And I'll assume that role. That's fine. If I have to be the bad guy, if he gets the help he needs, I'm fine with that. So no, you are correct, because what will happen is when someone decides to go on hospice, there is a whole dedicated team that will take care of them. From a actual MD, a doctor, down to a CNA, social work, chaplain, massage therapist. There's a whole team that's going to come in, give you that support, give your dad that support. Now, the biggest thing that when we do go on hospice, there's a little bit of a change in care, because right now, when something's wrong, you're going to the hospital, you're going to his doctor, you're trying to fix, cure, or just correct what's going on. Now, with hospice, when we decide to do that, we're not trying to find a cure anymore. We're not trying to fix something. We're understanding that with his cognition and his weight loss, it is going to be progressively getting worse over the course of time. And like you brought up, education on that will be huge because you're in with him 24/7. We'll be that support team, but we can't replace what you guys are doing. So as my clinicians come in, they'll help educate on the disease process, making sure he's comfortable, making sure his quality of life is very high, and giving you guys control over the type of care you guys want for him moving forward. Now, with that being said, there are also some other things going back to his incontinence supplies. They're not cheap nowadays, especially when you're buying them in bulk. So as a hospice company, there are other things that we do, and that is take care of the incontinence supplies. Any durable medical equipment, a hospital bed, bedside commode, bedside table, we will take care of that as a hospice company because we want to be that inclusive team for him moving forward. Now, the question I have for you, is that more of the direction you guys as a family are wanting to go for him, or are you guys still wanting to seek more curative measures?
Well, I'm educated enough to know that he keeps getting UTIs and you just can't cure them. At a certain point, it's going to kill them. I mean, we know that. We know that they get harder and harder to cure the older they are.
That's actually a good thing to bring up, because by no means, if they're on hospice, are we not going to treat things as they come up. UTIs, colds, those are things that we'll treat as they come up. It's more of that if somebody has cancer, for example, there's no more chemo or radiation. But those things, I'm not going to say they're smaller things because that may be a big thing for everybody. Everybody's different. We'll treat those as they come up. But that's where having a full dedicated team, it's on call 24/7, is a huge advantage for you guys. So Diane, is that how you guys want to move forward, is going through with hospice for your dad? Perfect. And that's where I would end the conversation, because after that, it's more of me tracking down stuff. But you guys can see what we're trying to do is catch up to where you guys are with your patients and getting to know them where they're at, because then moving forward, we're just going to be moving together as a group. So after that little role play, is it now easier to see how a hospice company can be an asset for you guys? Or is it still kind of a hard area to navigate and a difficult conversation to have?
I think it's still difficult.
Mhm.
And it helps when somebody helps give you words.
Yep.
So you kind of know what to say.
Mhm.
It always makes it easier, but it's still hard.
It is. Because it's the understanding of it, which you guys do not have to be the professionals at. But you guys, again, are the heroes. You have that trust. And then it's passing off that trust to let an expert who knows what they're doing explain that portion of it and collectively taking care of that person. I won't ask any of you guys to come up and do it. I was going to, but I won't. But are there questions that you guys have had about hospice regarding any of your patients or just in general? I wanted to identify any questions or things that you guys have seen, so then when they come up, they're much easier to answer or help understand that, hey, Josh taught me about this. Maybe I do need to tell Susie, hey, I'm going to have somebody come in and talk to you. Sorry, go ahead. You were raising your hand.
There are things I've been 20 years with the company.
Okay.
And things I really like about hospice, like them paying for the checks underneath the
Mhm.
patient, them paying for the briefs.
Yeah.
And then paying for the cream that keeps them from getting bed sores. And, you know, the fact that they have a doctor that coordinates all the care, so the hospice doctor takes over. So they aren't driving the patient to their doctor. I
Mhm.
like those things. But I've had different experiences with different hospices that have kind of freaked me out. It's like one of the companies didn't want me to feed her anything or give her any water at all.
Okay.
And so that's the first question I would ask if I were a family member with a hospice company. What is your feelings about giving the patient water?
Okay. It's more of, to answer your question, it's more of where the patient's at. Because if we're more of end stages of the disease and we know that the time of passing is not far off, when we are looking at if they're able to swallow or not is a very big key. Because the last thing we do want to do is start having them having difficulty swallowing water, pills, and the risk of having them actually aspirate, which can then lead to pneumonia, which causes its own difficulty. So it's hard to answer your question because it's such a case-by-case basis, but I have seen it before, and I won't say that we don't try to encourage water and everything else, but it is hard because it's at the dictation of the clinician that's seeing them, whether, yes, because of the risk of them aspirating, we're going to stop all solid foods. We'll just put them on liquids, and then we're having trouble with them swallowing their meds. So there's a lot of, I guess, concerns over the health of the patient at that point in time.
The lady I was taking care of was 6 months away from that, and I had her at the
Okay.
table, with her wheelchair dressed in rock. She was eating, and then this hospice nurse ran in and said, "I'm throwing the bed. The hospice doctor's going to put her on hospice," and she's got it. Ew. I'm like, I was just taking her from the doors in the wheelchair.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I won't add on to that. I can see where that may have been an error, but I won't add on to that because, yeah, completely different. Where I was talking more end of life, she was several months off. So that's once again at the dictation of the clinician, which I'll
Maybe
just
that's
leave
a
it where
good
it's
time
at.
to get a different company.
Bingo. I do agree. I'd be looking for another company, but
Well, they did agree with me. They put a sign on the table.
yeah, super simple things, but often overlooked. No, great question. Does anybody else have any questions? We got a big group here. There's got to be some questions that you guys have had. Go ahead.
How frequently does hospice come in? Is it just patient by patient basis? Or?
It will be. So with all the clinicians coming in, because there will be the nurse that is seeing them, the aide, chaplain, social worker, massage therapist, each have their own clinical expertise. So majority of care that is provided to a hospice patient is done with the registered nurse and the CNA. So those are the two that see hospice patients most frequently. Now the social worker, chaplain, they will come periodically, but normally, and depending on where the person's at, if it's somebody that is much more late stage, we are usually looking at nurse coming in 3 to 4 times a week, aide that same schedule. If it's somebody that is much earlier in the disease process, it may be just once or twice a week because we're trying to meet that patient where they're at, not overwhelm them, but let them realize and help them understand that they now have all the support they need, but we don't want to overwhelm them with 9 people coming in the span of 7 days, because that's a lot of phone calls, a lot of scheduling. So it just depends on each patient.
What about respite care? I feel like
Good
that's
question.
one of my clients right now.
Yep.
So, but with my father-in-law, that I was under the impression that was something that hospice provided. But does it depend on the company? Because the one they were with did not provide any respite care for the family, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. So does it depend on people's finances? Does it depend on the company?
So I'll speak from where we're at, because every company is different, and I don't want to
Okay.
speak for others. But what a respite stay is, in case you guys don't know what that is. So when somebody goes on hospice, what a respite stay or respite care is as the hospice company, we want to give the family, their main caregivers, a break from taking care of their loved one. Caregiver burnout is a very real thing. I see it far too often. So what we do is we look for a skilled nursing facility where they have nurses and staff on 24/7. And what we do is we take that patient from their home, we put them in the SNF for a couple days to give their family a break, give them a respite stay, so the family can go on vacation, live their lives, give them a chance to not have, I don't want to use the word burden, but the overwhelming pressure of taking care of their loved one during this process.
Give them time to sleep.
Give them time to sleep. Give them time to go on vacation. So active, what we do is with our patients, we normally do one once a quarter. So let's say for this quarter, if I had a patient, we would have them go to a SNF for 5 days. We would pay for it as a hospice company. But what they also get while they're there is the support staff from the building. My staff is still coming in on the regular basis, and then we make sure we help set up transport there and back. Once again, to give that family really the break they need, so when they come back, they're revived, they're ready to go to step back into that main caregiver role. But no, great question. And we usually do it once a quarter, unless there's some other circumstances that come up and it is something that needs to be addressed for the well-being of the patient, their family. So it is a case-by-case basis.
Only in a facility and never in a home. Is that correct?
So this is where it's hard. We only do it in a facility. No, you're okay, because we do a lot with veterans, and their respite care is different from somebody that is not a veteran. So I won't dive into that, because we go down that rabbit hole, we may not get out of that one. There's a lot that goes into that. So no, we normally do it in a facility that has a staff on 24/7 is normally where we do it.
And what was the name of the facility you said you used?
Skilled nursing facility.
There's lots of them. He's
Yep,
not,
so-
he's not saying.
Oh, I thought
Yeah.
you named one.
Nope. So you know what, the one closest to you guys, Orem Rehab and Nursing, that is a skilled nursing facility. So if we had a patient down here and they wanted to do a respite stay, I could call Orem Rehab and Nursing and say, hey, I have Sally coming in. She wants a respite stay. Do you guys have room available? Yes, bring her in this state. And then she leaves 5 days later and heads back home.
Orem Rehab has been really good. My husband's there right now.
Oh.
It's been a positive.
Well, good. No, I'm glad. I never want anybody to have a bad experience at a SNF or a hospital, but I can't control that, unfortunately.
It's not on hospice, it's another issue.
Okay, no worries. Great question. Any other questions you guys have? Go ahead.
If I am with a client and they are having a heart attack or some major thing that's happening, I know I call the office and then possibly then the office and then hospice. But I'm just wondering, because you can't call 911 since they're on hospice.
Mhm.
So I don't know what time it would take before somebody would get there. Or because you're with someone
valid
and
question,
they are
yep.
in pain.
Yep.
And yeah, and that's something that
Yeah, no, it is a hard question, because best way to word it is, as humans, we're hardwired that when heart attacks, falls, things like that happen, our brain initially wants us to seek treatment, go to the hospital, call EMS. It's just, we're born with it. We're hardwired since birth. We go to the hospital for anything like that. So you are correct. Your process is correct up to this point where, yes, get a hold of your staff. That next phone call, if not the first, would be to the hospice company to get the nurse to come out and do an actual physical check on the patient. Heart attacks are hard. I'm going to use falls, and then we'll come back to heart attacks. So with a fall, if any of our patients had a fall, the nurse would come out, assess the situation from the clinical perspective of an RN, and then dictate, yes, we can take care of everything at the home. They don't need to go to the hospital. If we feel like it's outside of our basically jurisdiction of care for a hospice company, then as a group, we would discuss with the family. I mean, I don't want to get gruesome, but let's say somebody has a fall, they cut their head open, and it is quite a bloody scenario we're walking into. At that point in time, we would look at, can we handle this from the perspective, or do we need to have them go to the hospital to get that addressed? Because just every person in here would be like, well, why wouldn't you want to go get it addressed if they're bleeding all over the floor? We do as well. We don't want them to just sit there and have that injury cause them to speed up that death process. So it is such a hard question, but I just make sure families understand that the majority of the time, and these are instances that will happen. Do they come up often? In the 6 years I've been doing it, they haven't come up very often, but I have had some with heart attacks, some with falls, some with some other things. So again, the best thing to do, call your office here, hospice company, let the nurse do her job, and then as a family and the care team, we make that next decision on, yes, they're okay to stay home, or let's have them go get stitches, get checked out, look at getting them on hospice when they come back from the hospital. Does that answer that question?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Diane.
When I do the training, I tell them that 911 and hospice know how to talk to each other. So even if we make a mistake and we call 911 instead of hospice, we haven't made it such a mess that it can't be fixed.
Correct.
Because they might get kicked off of hospice because they went to the hospital,
Mhm.
but they can immediately come back onto hospice and get back to where
Yep.
they were. So,
And going along with that, because unfortunately, Medicare is big brother for hospice companies, and what they don't want to see is a hospice patient going in and out of the hospital on a frequent basis. That's why when I bring up the question of, are we done seeking curative measures, I just want to make sure for the benefit of that patient, we're not going back and forth to the hospital for every little thing. Because in the end, just causes more problems for everyone involved. So that's why those situations are hard, but you are correct. When we do have somebody that needs to go to the hospital, we will call the hospital, say, hey, they're on hospice for this. They're coming in for a wound, just address the wound, send them back out when they're done, and we'll take care of them from there. So perfect. I'm glad you already had a process in place. That's perfect.
My sister's father-in-law had a situation fall. It was a transport.
Mm.
And they reached out to his son, my sister's husband, and they're like, we're doing everything we can. He's like, he's on hospice. Sorry. There was just a human side. Rescue this man. And they're like, no. He is not a rescue.
Mm-hmm.
He is, no. So that was we have to change their approach here.
Yep.
And they got him right back into the care center really quick and stopped trying to save his life.
And it's hard to see it because once again, there's the overall perspective of what hospice is, and that's why we try and educate everybody we can, because something that is normal process for somebody else, you throw that hospice word and they understand, oh, yes, I'm supposed to take care of this person, but they also have a team that's going to do exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So it is hard. Go ahead.
It's also like, how quickly can the nurse get there? Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I know I'll call and you will be there as soon as you humanly possibly can. But your company might, because with when my mother-in-law died, it took them, of course it was a Sunday, but it was like hours. And of course that was a death, not a,
yeah.
But and they have a schedule. They're on a route. They may not be. So that like makes me like
valid point.
First aid, but I'm not I'm not a paramedic.
I can't step into that role.
Yes.
So no, what we normally do, because once again, and I can only speak for us, we always have one RN in each county that is on call. So I have one for Utah County, I have one for Salt Lake County, Tooele, Weber, Davis. Because what I don't want to have happen is I have my nurse on call that lives in Tooele, need to see a patient here in Orem. Put the drive time together, it's an hour and a half. That's a long time for somebody to sit there and wait. So we try and make sure we have staff that is available. And the only time I've ever seen an extension by any means is the nurse is physically in with a patient, treating them right then and there. They can see the phone call, but it's an instance where it's like, I can't get to it. Leave a message. She's going to head there right after she's done. But the great thing about ours is how we have our system wired is if the nurse doesn't answer after 4 or 5 rings, it shoots it over to the manager on call. And then the manager on call can then get in touch with either another nurse that's close by, or sometimes I've had to call the ones that are not on call because they are much closer and wake them up from their great sleep. But for the patient, it's something we're going to do.
We had a situation with my dad, and they told us with the hospice company,
Mhm.
okay, these are how fast, rapidly things are changing. And they said, you call the nurse, this nurse, and they said, call her hours before. And I called her, I said, okay, this is what's going on. And so she knew when she got the middle of the night phone call, she was already anticipating, I'm going out. So they had us call
Plan
her.
to visit. Okay, I see what you're saying.
That was, yeah, but they told it, and we were like, okay. And so she had that heads up, was totally aware when my number came up that Dad had passed. And that was
Okay, I see where you're at.
comfortable.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. When it's close and we know the time of passing is going to be that same day, great plan.
Let them know in
Yep.
advance. There wasn't a wait time. She was like, at my
Yep.
car and coming from Lehigh,
As it should be.
see you.
I'll see you in my drive time that takes me from Lehigh to Orem or wherever it was. So no, great question. Or great response. Sorry. I wanted to shift gears over to talking about where you guys can help with the people that you're seeing. Because again, and I'm gonna keep hitting this because I didn't have the realization until probably about a week ago how important you guys are for everybody involved. Because when you start noticing these things on the flyer I gave you with recent hospitalizations, loss of appetite, altered mental status, all of these things start painting a picture that you guys can start seeing and saying, hey, I think it's time we had that discussion, have somebody come in. So you guys, I want you guys to remember, you guys are the heroes. You guys are normally the first interaction with healthcare for a lot of people. You guys can also be the ones that help them with that next step and continue to take care of them and have more people come take care of them. But again, be the heroes you guys are. Get to know your patients. These are great resources, and I have a whole huge wall of different things that I'm more than happy to drop by if there's certain things where, well, what do you guys do for physical therapy on home health? What do I do if a hospice patient is suffering from this? I can come help educate on all of that, and there are resources that you guys can use as well. But do remember that you guys are the heroes for each one of these guys, and we'd love to come help with anything at all.
And in the case of you not wanting to talk to the family yourself, which maybe in some cases you shouldn't, call Allison. Because Allison calls the family and has those conversations. That's part of her job. So you also, you can just tell Allison your concerns, and she gets it from enough of you, right? And she reads the progress notes. She can go to the family and say, here's the big picture. So.
And then when she needs me, she calls me. I go in and have the conversation, and off we go, making sure they're taken care of. So no, please continue to be the heroes you guys are. Keep up the hard work, because we also do personal care, and I know how hard it is to take care of people day in, day out. It may just be for 1 hour a week. It may be for 4 or 5 every day. I get it, but please keep doing that for them, because they do need it. They appreciate it, and please keep up the hard work you guys do. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Well, we have a little gift that we want to give to you for coming and presenting today.
Oh, thank you.
All right, thank you. I asked him to give us a few minutes at the end because we want to practice the two-person transfer. Because those of you that are new, you're like, yeah, you already showed me how to do it. But it's kind of hard doing it in real life. It's kind of easier when it's somebody who can actually move themselves, right? So I have asked Josh if he will be our person that needs to be transferred. And he's willing to do that. So, and if somebody can make sure that the camera is in the right position to see what's going on. Come and sit here, Mr. Josh, sir.
You didn't know you were signing up for this.
No,
did
she
you?
gave me a heads up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could have ran. I didn't.
Well, you need it to go down?
I don't know how to operate it. I
Okay.
can do it, but with the right
Okay,
hand.
this right here.
Otherwise, I'm
Okay,
gonna
so
see her
you
head, yeah.
can do
And I
that.
don't need to see his head.
How about
I'm
that?
gonna do, but I don't.
How about that?
That's better.
All right. One of you young guys that know how to do this. Okay. All right. I'm just kidding. Okay. Do I have a volunteer for someone to do the front end? You know what? I'm going to actually ask you to sit in that chair. Okay. So this side of the room can see. Will you come and do the front end, Cindy? Since you're so good. All right. So the person who we're going to go.
Good luck, Cindy.
Except that we're going to go that way, not
Okay.
that way.
Okay.
Okay. So you're going to be in front.
Okay.
All right. The person in front is the one who does the regular transfer that you do when you don't have a second person. You pick them up, you do a little dance, and you put them down. Okay. That's when you only have one person. When you have two, it's because that person can no longer do the little dance and they can't hold themselves up. So the person in back, so if you will lean forward, what we're going to want you to do is scoot as far forward as you can without falling off the chair. There we go. And then I'm going to get close and personal. All right, will you hold that for me? Okay, so the person in
My
back,
knees where your knees are. So
Okay.
that you're taller than I am.
and we totally moved this so that, boy, we're going to throw you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the person in back, their job is to stand between the wheelchair and where you're going, because you still have to keep your back straight. So whatever you do, you don't, none of this, okay? It's this. And what you do is you grab on to the shirt and the pants and anything else. He's got a belt, that makes it nice. But you grab onto the whole thing, because you don't want, if you just grab the shirt, and if you just grab the pants, you're giving them a wedgie. None of that.
You use a
Belt,
gate belt.
if they have a belt, but I'm showing you without because most of our clients don't like them. Okay, so I want you to notice what I do. My job is to get him to the chair. Her job is to help him get up. My job is to show the direction. So your job is to bend down, help him up, make sure you're. Okay, we're going to see how well she's remembering. Your waist needs to be where his waist is. All right. Okay, and you're the one that says 1, 2, 3. And you want to rock your 1,
2, no 3. We're going up. Whoa! And you're going before I knew you were there.
All right. How did that feel? Did you help? Did you help?
You did throw me.
Did
May have been Diana, but hey, we got there.
you help? Did you help?
Little, very little.
All right. Come on over here. Come back. Who wants to take your excuse? Thank you. Anybody want to be the person in front? Come on, be brave. Isaiah, will you help?
Yeah.
All right. So say you now. We want you to sit forward. Scoot up. Okay. Remember, your waist has to be where his waist is.
Okay, so is it good to have his hand on shoulders? That was
I'm just being dead weight for you, so.
Well, that's up to him.
okay.
Normally, I would say most people you'd say put your hands on my shoulders, but whatever works for you. It's your call. You're the one doing the work. Make sure your waist is as far as his, and if you can get close enough that you can actually entwine your fingers.
Oh boy, there you go.
Oh.
Not the pleasant part.
Can you actually do this?
This, yeah.
Okay. All right, there you go. Because then you've got a better thing. I'm taking the shirt and the pants, and you want to rock. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Did you help that time?
No.
Okay. All right. Isaiah, I want you to come and take this back.
What if
Okay.
they can't scoot forward on their
That
own?
was my dad. He said,
Good question.
If he can't, no, Isaiah, I want you back here.
Oh, you want me on the
I want you back here.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, come on and sit here and sit forward. If they can't move forward, then that means you've got to get even closer so that you can get all the way around like this, and you've got more to hold. You've got more lifting to do. So you don't want that. So even if you just tell them lean back in the chair And if you lean back in the chair, sometimes that just automatically scoots your butt a little bit closer. I would do whatever you can to get them closer. All right. Chauffeur. You know, I actually didn't train you. I was on vacation, and but the pictures I saw, you had a lot more hair.
Yeah.
You went and cut it all off, didn't you?
Yes,
Okay. All right. So hopefully when Liz trains you, you got it right. You got to make sure your waist is where his waist is. Keep it even. And you're holding on.
Mm-hmm.
Your
Ready?
job is to just get him there. Keep your back straight.
All right, you ready? 3, 2, 1.
Not bad, not bad.
Okay.
I did that much.
All right. Who else? We want everyone to practice being in the back. Who wants to be next? Mary, you going to come do it? All right, Mary, little tiny Mary is going to do it. All right. Okay, Isaiah, will you come to the front? It doesn't have to be a strong guy, but okay.
1, 2.
Now, how did that go? How did you do, Mary?
I tried to keep my back straight and tried to just.
You did. You did. All right. Okay, come be in the back. I heard you, Angela. Come on up. You be in the back. Because
No, it's just this. You
I'm gonna
got
be
me
all dead
squatting
weight
down
for
here.
you.
and I'm like, You're gonna fall backwards if you do that.
well, except that you don't want to use your back. Well, how do you well, you were the one saying it's hard to transfer people. So,
Yeah, no, I would have to have somebody in the front that can do
okay.
that.
All right. So now you want, so you can't throw him over there if you're back there. You need to be,
Right, no, I
Okay.
wasn't ready yet.
okay. Sorry.
Sorry.
1, 2, 3.
He's like, I'm getting a wedgie. Sorry about that. Okay. Somebody else want to try it in the back? What about Connie? Thank you, Connie.
So it seems like you may want to have the stronger person in the front. Because we're
That's a good point to have the stronger person in front. They do have a certain responsibility, don't they? Now, you know I have a bad back, but I think I could still do it because if I do it correctly, then we're working together and both sides should not have to feel too much because you're helping each other, if that makes sense.
You might have an advantage to being taller than 5 foot too.
Yeah.
Yes. The taller the client is and the taller you are, the better it is. It's harder the shorter you are. It can still be done though. I had Connie come and train with me at the very beginning, just a review. She said, I want a review. She moved me all by herself. We were just doing the one transfer. I had no choice in the matter. I was moved from there to there. And I was like, what happened to let's do the little turny thing? There was no turny thing. She moved me totally against my will. So don't let size throw you off. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. Make sure you get 1 foot. Now make sure the back person's ready. And you need to be standing. Yep. And then make sure your back is straight. Yep. Okay. Whoa. Okay, anybody else?
But if you also have those they have the recliners that are, because then I feel like you're not, you can.
It's not an even swap.
Yeah,
This one's
easier,
for-
it's easier if you can raise the recliner up.
Yes, because then they're already halfway standing up. Yes, those are definitely to an advantage there. Marilyn wants to
I
do.
want to show you something that I learned.
Oh, she's gonna get serious here.
Especially if they don't have, this works for a day though.
Ah, she's gonna show us. Do you need someone in back, or you're just gonna do this?
Anybody else want to try?
Oh my gosh. Okay, we gotta try this. All right, give it here. I gotta try it. Marilyn, you made that look fun. I gotta try that. You didn't have any choice in that, did you?
I worked 20 years for the company and 9 years as an LPN, so.
That is true. Marilyn started with this company at the very, very beginning because we just celebrated our 20th birthday, and she's been here from the very beginning. All right. Go ahead and hold that for me, would you? All right. I should make sure you show me how to do it. Okay. So you just went around his waist.
Low,
Low.
as if you're going up or.
Yeah.
You gotta go.
Okay.
Should I grab here?
Where does he need to hold on?
Oh, no, he doesn't do anything.
You're just,
Dead weight?
you're comatose.
Dead weight.
All right. All right. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. Oh. Where were you when I was learning how to do this?
I showed you the other time when you did this.
I didn't do it with you. With my head back, I did it. She saw me yesterday.
Use that method, it works great.
Oh my God.
Obviously, we prefer, but they have a sheet.
You know what? That sheet was easier to get.
I was gonna say that looked easier
Yeah.
because you had more, they
There's
felt you're
more.
like.
Anybody want to try it?
Yeah, try it.
Come on, guys. Don't be shy.
Cindy, try it.
She's gonna sneak out in the back. I have things to do. Maddie, come up and try. Oh my gosh. Okay.
It stays tighter.
Yeah. That is true. It's hard to get them tight enough.
Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Watch the overshoot, but other than that,
What did you think?
Yeah, that was pretty good. I think he might have helped me. I think he cheated a little bit.
Did you cheat?
No.
Can you say that with can you say that with a straight face?
If somebody wants all of my weight, I will give them all of my weight. I just make sure we don't shrink.
Yes. All right. Okay, everybody. Thanks for coming. If you did not sign the sheet on the table in the other room, then you don't get credit for being here and we don't pay you. So make sure you sign that.
He deserves a round of applause.
Yes, he does. Yes, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming all the way down from Salt Lake. We appreciate it. All right, and there are treats. Allison said no treats until you did the training, but now you've done the training, so go get the treats. All right, everybody, thanks.
Thank you.